As difficult as the loss of a loved one is on adults, it can be particularly devastating to children. If a child is not attended to during the first days of their horrible loss, it's possible they could carry scars of trauma for the rest of their lives. So, a keynote is early intervention. Now, adults are often so numb with grief after a loved one dies that they fail to realize that a child in the family is left to cope with this on their own. And when a child loses a loved one, especially a parent or sibling, their world it falls apart. They're full of questions and plagued with confusion and guilt, and they need your help. For small children, very small children, death, it's not real. You know, to give you a simplified example, if Bugs Bunny gets up every time Wile E. Coyote kills him, is Grandma going to get up too? She went to heaven? What is that? When is she coming back? So be there for your children and let them ask all the questions that are filling their mind and be honest in your answers. Death is a real part of life, and children, they need to get to terms with it. Now, when you bring them to terms with it, that's up to you. Children go through a variation of the same stages of grief as adults, but some of the stages they can last a very long time, and if children are not helped to go through the stages like denial or guilt, they can have profound effects on their future. Most children believe that it's somehow their fault that their father or mother or grandparent died. If only they were better or did their homework or didn't make so much noise, or the reasons that can flow through a child's mind, they may seem irrational and silly to us, but to a child, they seem perfectly logical. So it's imperative that adults ensure children that it is in no way their fault that the loved one died. And children grieve in spurts, much like adults. So one moment they're sad and crying, and the other moment they're running around laughing and playing. It's all normal. Don't be fooled into believing that he or she is out of it. Just like you, it takes time. So give your child some outlets for their grief. Give them some paper and crayons or Play-Doh. Older children might prefer to make a scrapbook of their departed loved one. They also might want to make some sort of memorial. These are all healthy ways for a child to express their feelings, and it might offer you a way of seeing more clearly how they feel, you know, if they can't really express their feelings in words. It's perfectly normal also for many children to regress to their early childhood when they lose a loved one, especially a parent. They may start talking like babies, or have temper tantrums, or wet the bed, or demand constant cuddling and carrying. This is all okay. It's all okay for a somewhat short time. If they don't snap out of it eventually, you may need to seek more professional help. It's very difficult to find the fine line between what's a normal way for children to grieve and when to look for help. So the best sign that their grief is overwhelming is their prolonged lack of appetite or lack of energy. If a child refuses to see his or her friends or refuses to go to school for, a considerable amount of time, you may want to consult a child therapist. And sometimes it's enough to just ask for guidance and advice. At times it is important to bring a child for, a talk with a specialized professional. Most children are resilient, and they will bounce back if they continue to have good, loving support systems, that you provide. So despite, losing a loved family member, they're going to be okay. It might mean that you need to put your grief aside and be there for your child, but you might find that the questions children ask and the way they talk about the person both of you lost, it might be very healing for you too. And if you found this helpful, I definitely encourage you to visit transformgrief.com right now for incredible ways to overcome grief and loss. These skills and strategies are applicable to all forms of loss in life, not just the loss of a loved one, but all forms. So please go check out the site right now. I think it can benefit everyone. Take care.